It's episode 7 of the My Journey podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This time we're lucky enough to be hearing from a Michelin star chef. But before we get into that, I just wanted to thank everyone so far who has subscribed to the podcast and or left a review. It's great to see the feedback. If you want to pass on your suggestions about the pod, including ideas for future guests, you can contact me on social media. I'm at the MJ Social on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Also, before we get to today's guest, I wanted to let you know a little bit about what I do. I'm Matt Johnson, creator and host of the My Journey podcast, but day to day I'm a personal branding and social media marketer. This simply means I help brands, both personal and business, grow through the various social media platforms by creating bespoke content for them. If this is something that might be of interest to you, then drop me an email via matt@themattjohnson.co.uk and we'll discover how we can work together. Okay, now on to today's interview. James Mackenzie is a Michelin star chef. Together with his wife Kate, they run the Pipe and Glass pub in South Dalton, East Yorkshire. It's a beautiful place which has won numerous awards and the team there were extremely welcoming. I think, honestly, the best thing to do now is just to let you hear the interview. So here it is, the My Journey podcast with James Mackenzie. Welcome to the My Journey podcast, James. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very well.
So today we're going to have a bit of a chat through your career to where you are now as a Michelin star chef. But I think the best place to start is right at the beginning.
Okay.
Where I read that at 13 years old, you went into the kitchens and was a pot washer. How did you find that experience?
Well, it was hard at that age, really. That's the career path that a lot of chefs end up taking. I'd always enjoyed cooking at home. My mum was a good cook, still is. My grandma used to work in a bakery, so I can remember stood on a chair baking bread with her in her terraced house kitchen and then proving it by the fire and things like that. And then my other grandma lived on a farm and my auntie lived on a farm as well, so there was all these kind of things brought up with, proper cooking and things that around like that. But then throughout my school career, didn't really know what I wanted to do and kind of liked technical drawing and maybe wanted to be an architect or a town planner or something, but that's miles away from being a chef.
Definitely.
But when I grew up in Filey on the coast, and I ended up getting a job at this restaurant where I just opened up, and I ended up washing up there and then doing a little bit of prep, like what people do, a bit of food prep. And then started off delivering pizzas actually on a bike with pizzas in the back and trundling all around Filey and things on a bike. So you see it from all angles. And then I ended up liking the cooking bit. Never really did cooking at school. Home economics at school was completely different to normal cooking. But I ended up that I enjoyed going to work more than I enjoyed going to school, really. So
So you've definitely caught the bug then?
Yeah, so then I suppose that was the natural career path to take, and ended up going to Scarborough Technical College, it was known then, Yorkshire Coast College, it's known now, and was there, just after the likes of James Martin, Andrew Pern, a lot of other kind of quite good people, chefs, had been there. It was a good college, and that was a really firm basis for classical learning of classical techniques in cooking, really.
So with them names that you just mentioned there, had they already started to become stars in their own right?
No,
or it just happened to be that
No, I'm actually closer to their age than what you think, really. So that, that college was synonymous with a good name at the time, like I say, it gave us a good basis of all the basic skills of preparation and pastry skills and everything, really, and classical, which isn't so much involved in college these days, but that was then and this is now. So
that's brilliant. So obviously you went to Scarborough Technical College. It was 3 years you spent there. Did you get any work experience while you were there, or was it just all
you had to do all sorts of different work experience. Your first year you had to do it in a school, so I actually went back to Filey School and ended up working in the canteen there. So you can imagine that there was some comments from some of the school kids and that. And then he did some work experience in London for another bit, which I've got to be honest, didn't particularly take to. It was a big hotel in the middle of London, completely different. And when I speak to chefs these days, young chefs of the career path they want to take, I say there's no wrong bit. You know, if you go into something, experience everything that you can, because it teaches not only what you want to do, but what you don't want to be involved with as well. You know, so but times have changed a bit since then, and that's 25, 26 years ago now. So the kitchens have changed dramatically since then as well. So
you said you went to London, you had a little bit of experience down there, but I read that you avoided the London route long term. Was that because of London, or was that because of the kitchens in London, or is it just that you didn't feel right for you?
I just don't think I was particularly bothered by it. I've done quite a few different stages at really good places down in London, like work experience things since then throughout your career. That's a stagiaire is in our industry. It's what people kind of go off and get some work experience. Even when they're in the career, they might go and spend 1-2 days a week at another place, and you pick up skills and you're able to see what goes on elsewhere and then bring it back to your own job wherever you're working. And sometimes that might lead on to a job somewhere else or whatever. But from an employer's point of view now, you hope that somebody doesn't go on work experience and somebody else try to nick them, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all them different experiences that make you the kind of person and chef that you are as well, and I never particularly bothered about the London thing, like I say, and that there's in our industry, a lot of the focus always is on London, and that's rightly so in a certain aspect, because there's so many different eateries in London, and that's where the hub of where everything does go on. But there's other stuff that goes on outside London as well, and I think over the years as well, it's grown. The kind of quality that's available, as in boutique hotels and just restaurant offerings. And I mean, you look in this area around Beverley and things like that, the way it's grown over the last 10 years with decent places to eat and things like that.
Yeah, definitely seen a growth in that independence and places
like
that.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're training, are you training in different styles of cuisine, or is it very much you get on the track and that's the style that you stick with, or do you go
very much classically based, so French classical based? I'm a great believer in you need to know the basic techniques, that you start off at college, you learn all your skills, as in all the different cuts of vegetables and the skills of using a knife. But I was working in the kitchen already when I went to college, so Mr. Big Shot here thought he knew everything. Well, not everything, but knew how to use a knife. So on our first day at college, the lady tutor, who was brilliant at the time, says, I've got a box of plasters here because a few of you are going to cut your fingers today. And I can remember thinking, well, I won't, because I've used a knife quite a bit in my part-time job. And guess who was the first one to chop a finger off? Yeah, me. So I had to go to the front of the class and get a plaster for my finger. Very embarrassing, really. But I still learned how to chop carrots properly.
So is it down in Worcestershire that you met your now wife?
That's right,
at a
yeah.
gastro pub, was it?
Yep. So a few years ago, my friend was opening up a gastro pub, and I went down to help him get open. He was a long-term friend, and I went down for a couple of days to help him get open. I ended up staying 4 years there. So
Wow.
And I met Kate, my wife, there. She had been working it was two brothers who took this pub on, and she'd been working there, and they'd ask her to go along and work. So the first time me and Kate ever met was over a hot plate, and it was on the opening night, and I was just there to help out. And I said, just watch your finger marks on them plates. And she apparently turned around and said, who's that idiot chef on the other side of the hot plate? I've told that story at our wedding and so forth. And I say that's still sometimes the same premise as now. I stand that side of the hot plate and Kate stands the other side of the hot plate saying who's that idiot chef at the other side. So.
And obviously, you now both own the Pipe and Glass where we are today. What point did owning a restaurant come on the radar? Was it something you both thought straight away that's what we'd like to do, or was it?
I mean, I'd always had an ambition to own my own place. When I was at college, you have these great ambitions, and I always wanted to own my own place and have a Michelin star. You know, this was a great aspiration, and that's probably before the days of there wasn't that many Michelin stars about, but that's what I wanted. But that's an ambition, and then you actually leave college, and the reality hits that actually it's hard work out there, like brutally hard work in our industry. And like I was just saying previously, that times are changing for the good. You know, it's not as longer hours for chefs. I'm not saying everywhere it still is a hard industry to be in, but times are changing, and you know, people do get more time off now. Kitchens generally are a more friendly environment and things, but it is hard. You get out there and you think, wow, how am I going to own my own restaurant? And if you don't own your place, you know, how am I going to get a Michelin star? So you realise how much money, capital you're going to have to do that. And it kind of, when you start working, worked for people over the years, and, you know, I've been committed all the time, not taking holidays, you know, working on days off, things like that. But I just came to the reality that it wasn't going to happen, really, you know, and never really thought about it that much, you know. But I think all the time in the back of my head, I wanted our own place, you know, my own place. And then when I met Kate, I ended up moving back up to Yorkshire to be head chef for Andrew Pern at the Star at Hereham. So me and Kate went there. And then after a few years of working there, the opportunity came up here, and it was out of the blue, really, with I've got a very good friend of mine who's not a millionaire or anything like that, and we was out for drinks one night, and he said, why don't we get a restaurant? I said, what do you know about the restaurant industry? He said, not a lot, really. So and we asked another friend who just developed some property and sold that, so they'd got some money, but we didn't have a massive capital or whatever. They were silent partners, and I think me and Kate spent about 3 months trying to put them off, you know, saying, you know, 1 out of 2 businesses in hospitality closed within the first 2 years and all this, and it's not a surefire return, it's not a quick return, and so on and so forth. And there wasn't deterred by that, so we set off and started looking for the right place, you know, and we was open to anywhere, but we identified around this area where we are now in East Yorkshire as an area that we could tap into, and it was looking for the right place. We looked all over York and everywhere, all different places, and then this place, the Pipe and Glass, was on the market. And it was more money than we could afford, and the bank would lend us as well. There was another couple of other properties that we could afford, but you needed to put some more money in it and things like that. But the thing about the Pipe and Glass, with a minimal injection, we could make it work. You know, that said, it was minimal as well, you know, what we had. So we ended up going back to the bank, and they agreed to lend some more money if we found some more money. So all our credit cards was maxed out and absolutely everything. We didn't have a penny to our name. We ended up buying the freehold on the Pipe and Glass, you know, and here we are. But at the time, it was a real struggle to do it. It was a lot of money. It was a big risk. It's a big place. When we first bought it, we called in favours from friends, family, everything, you know. So we had a project where we only closed for 2 weeks to refurb it. We was decorating ourselves and everything, you know. My mum made the curtains for the bar. Everything was, you know, the biggest investment was we had our tables made, which we've still got downstairs now, all out of reclaimed wood. It was a new company, one of my friends, company up in the northeast, and they'd made a few tables out of reclaimed things. And we said, will you do this project for us here and make our tables, and we designed them slightly bigger than normal restaurant tables, so people got plenty of room in the restaurant, and they agreed to. So we got them at a good price. It's the first time they'd done it for a restaurant, and then they've gone on to make tables for Gordon Ramsay, for Hugh Furling-Whittenstall's restaurant, all sorts of different places. So, so yeah, we managed, to get little bits like that. We had a very small budget in the kitchen. We had to just use elbow grease to clean the kitchen and things like that, and buy minimal equipment and a few new bits of crockery and things. So we started off with a refurb, and it took off. It was only me and a couple of guys in the kitchen, Kate and a handful of people out front. But we set off with the premise of doing really good food, great food with great Yorkshire hospitality. And we had a small blackboard menu, not even a written menu. The bar was open. We weren't even open in the restaurant bit then. And 2 days after we opened, we got a visit from the Michelin guide. And I said, "You are joking," but probably a little bit stronger words than that.
Yeah.
They said we was on the radar and things. They wanted to get us in the pub guide and things like that. So it was on their radar right from, the get-go, really.
Wow.
So we set off and we started doing what we do, and there was a great deal of attention on us. It was really busy to start off with, as we are now, but immediately, and I was working 18, 20-hour days, for in the kitchen first thing in the morning, and then still washing up at whatever in the morning and things. So yeah, it took off. It was busy and got a lot of attention, got a lot of awards, so it brings more people in. And then you're on this kind of roller coaster ride, So then after a couple of years, we managed to buy our friends out who was business partners, so we could really push on with the business then and reinvest, and that's where we are now.
It's been massive change as well to go from being a chef to a business owner.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you learnt a lot in that period about business owner.
I was still learning every single day. That's the thing in our industry, is there's a lot of brilliant chefs out there, a lot more skilled and knowledgeable chefs than what I am, indeed. And our industry is all the time moving on with chefs, etc., and cooking and what goes on in the world. But it's completely different when you run your own business as well, and you're a chef. You're a business owner. You need to keep them tight margins and realise about the food. You need to be staff aware as well. And it's about working hard and pushing hard all the time, and also running a business and making sure that you survive running a business. You've still got to pay all them bills, wages every month, no matter how busy you are. You've still got to pay your VAT bill, you've still got to pay your taxes, everything like that. So it's about everything. It's not just about the cooking when you own a hospitality business as well.
The impression I get as well is that the catering industry, especially within the restaurant world, it's quite, in some places, quite tight community. Like, the owners of other restaurants and stuff. Did their support come in quite a lot at that time as well?
Yeah, it still does. There's very much a lot of support out there. Everybody's in the same boat. I would say in the same of a lot of industries. I think sometimes, especially when people watch the cooking TV shows and so forth, that they see there's this competition in, rivalry in restaurants and chefs and things, and it's not like that at all. Everybody wants to help each other. I go off and do guest chef days or evenings and charity events, cooking with other chefs, and everybody just wants to help each other. Everybody's doing a different thing. But everybody's in the same boat, and it's everybody goes through the same ups and downs. Everybody works hard and plays hard as well. But yeah, there's great support out there from lots of different people.
Brilliant. And obviously you mentioned there that you got the Michelin guys were interested straight away, and you obviously went on to achieve a Michelin star. And I listened to a podcast with Tim Lovejoy and Tom Kerridge, and they were saying about how the Michelin star, as great as it is probably one of the worst awards to win, because if you lose it, you were the Michelin star winner of 2013.
Yeah,
that's it. It's gone. Whereas if you win any other kind of title, if you're a sports player, you were the Wimbledon champion 2017. They can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
If you was there any point in your head where you thought this is too soon? or was it always like, no, this is where we want it to be, this is what we've got to do to...
I've never chased a Michelin star, and said that to the Michelin inspector when they first came that day. I said, look, we're not looking to cook for Michelin stars or awards on the wall. We're looking to have satisfied customers and be busy. I'd rather have bums on seats and happy customers than loads of awards on the wall, and that's what pays the way and makes a successful place, I think. And my kind of cooking is what I like cooking, it's what our customers like, we're not pretentious about some things on the menu it's not selling and things like that. We change it, it's trying to make our food friendly towards everybody, but never chased Michelin stars. And when it came about was a total shock, really. I've told this story before, but it was kind of quite funny, really, that I'd done a mini refurb in the bar. And on this Friday, we'd been closed for a week in January, and that's when the Michelin Guide used to come out. And we'd invited a few friends and a few locals in that night to come to the bar. So we just got back off holiday for a few days away, and I was driving into Beverley to go to Tesco's to get some bought sausage rolls and garlic bread and things to put on the bar that night because we didn't have any food because we weren't open for food. So on the way in, I get a phone call from Andrew Pern to say that the Michelin Guide had been sent out early by mistake, and that somebody had rang him and said we'd got a Michelin star, which I nearly fell off my chair kind of thing. And I tried ringing the pub here and tried ringing Kate. It was all engaged and everything, and obviously it had just gone mental with not social media then so much 10 years ago, but everybody ringing up and things like that. So I went into Tesco's and got these bits and bobs and things, these ready-made products, and I just thought, this is just so ironic that you're doing this, and people think Michelin starred chefs don't eat normal food and things, So I was getting these bits and bobs thinking if anybody knew. So I drove back to the Piping Glass and I walked in, and Kate was just like a rabbit in the headlights, and I said, you must have heard the news. She went, yeah, I know, the phone's not stopped ringing. So, and then you say about that pressure, yes, it is. But when I think Michelin give it that award to places to reward them and make them busier and make sure that it's out there and everything. Yeah. It is that added pressure year on year. Because I feel like we do get better and more consistent. Consistency is our big word as well as quality. So them two things, quality and consistency, has got to run throughout our business no matter what it is. And that's what we look for all the time. But that first year when you do get a Michelin star, it's the best thing that happened, but also probably the hardest year as well. Because all of a sudden you get the added attention from people travelling from further away. You've got a Michelin star, then they turn up and say, there's no white tablecloths. Why haven't you got white tablecloths? We're talking over 10 years ago, so when we first got it, we've held it for 10 years. So it's a hard thing, to satisfy everybody, that people come with expectations, and you say, oh, hang on a minute, it's just us in our country pub trying to do our thing, so but it enables you, it does put a percentage on your business, for extra custom, but there's always that added pressure 'cause everybody's looking at you, so you're all the trying to stay on top of your game, trying to develop, and improve things and tweak things here and there. That doesn't mean drastically changing the menu or anything. It's about making things, like I say, more consistent. You've got to keep up with trends of what, he's not doing trendy stuff just for the sake of it, but what people actually want as well, and what they're looking for in a plate of food, and what they're looking for in a restaurant or a pub or whatever, so you've got to keep up on everything.
And I suppose, like, within the foodie world, obviously it's a big thing, but you're the only place to hold a Michelin star within East Yorkshire, and only one of 5, is it, within Yorkshire?
Yeah.
So obviously then that local scrutiny, as you say, in London there's lots of eateries, so maybe when someone gets a Michelin star, it's not as big for the local news, but around here, it's a big deal. And
it's like you said, when it first happens, it is big deal. It's all the media, everything. And then a couple of years after that, nobody pays attention to, you've got it year on year, but it is year on year. Yeah. But we've had it for 10 years now, and like I say, that's not the main focus every day. It's about making sure we stay busy and our customers are happy, and our food just changed slightly. But if we ever lost it, touch wood, we don't. But then there'd be everybody queuing up, media-wise, say, oh, they've lost a Michelin star, why is that? I'm sure people would be saying, oh, the Piping Glass, oh, it's not what it used to be. And we say, well, we're not doing anything different to what we are, So, in fact, I feel like you're better all the time, but you've always got that thing in the back of your mind, you could lose it and things. But hopefully we've got a sustainable business that it wouldn't matter so much,
Yeah, and I suppose it opens up other opportunities as well, like not just a Michelin star but other awards. I saw online that you've been to some quite exotic locations, being able to chef, and you get to go and do guest appearances in other people's chefs. I suppose that as well is great for the brand, not just the awards.
Oh, it's everything all the time, that's what keeps people coming in. You've got to be very outward going, a kind of PR promotion person. You've got to be a people person. I'm one of these people who says yes to a lot of things. That means you're doing a lot of different things, whether it's a small food festival there, it's a demonstration out there, it's a charity thing there. And it is, it's all them little bits. Sometimes you don't feel it's worth it, and other times all you need is that one person to be sat at that demo wherever you're doing it or whatever you're doing and saying, oh, I've never been to the Piping Glass, and they end up coming, and then they tell their friends, and it's a different set of people as well. So it's about promoting the brand all the time and keeping awareness, and then you have good loyalty customers, but you're always needing new ones to replace old ones that do move on elsewhere. But it's sometimes, I think, with the PR bit and things like that, it can be that people haven't been for a while and they hear the name Piping Glass and they go, oh, we haven't been there for a while, we should go again. So it picks them people up again, So
I suppose the Michelin star is associated with the Piping Glass, but by nature that is then also associated with you as an individual.
Yeah.
And how did you cope with that as well? Then suddenly people referring to you as a Michelin star chef. Amongst your contemporaries, you're still hanging around with the same people, but did you notice any changes within the way that people maybe thought of your work?
I don't know, really. You are, it puts you in a certain club kind of thing, and that certain respect thing. But I think there's some people in our industry who really just do want a Michelin star, and sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. And I think it's, it like I say, it does put you in a certain club, but I think you've got to be a certain mentality that you've got to be out there. It's not all about Michelin. It definitely isn't. Day to day, it's about working this place. This place, obviously, is family owned by us. That's the vibe you want to give off to everybody who walks in the door. You want it to be friendly. We employ a lot of staff now, everything like that. So it's about everything that goes on here. It's not, you're not, main focus isn't Michelin every day. It's about our customers who are walking through the door, and you want to look after them.
And I noticed you do a lot of other work around. It's not just this business that you have, but you also do. Is it the Golden Apron to help young chefs? Just want to talk a little bit about that and what that entails.
So we set that up a few years ago. There's a lot of people in our industry. There is a skills crisis in our industry with chefs and young people coming into our industry. As a lot of skilled industries as well, because it's been drummed into people over the last few years that you've got to go to university, and these people are leaving university now, and not necessarily the jobs are out there. I've always been a great believer in if you start in our industry as a chef or a cook or a front of house, you're able to grow, and the world is your oyster. You've got a passport to the world when you work in our industry, and you've got a set of friends no matter where you go as well, because they're all, like I said before, they're like-minded people. So there's a lot of people who moan about what's coming out of colleges these days, the skill set that just isn't there. So I've always tried to interact with schools and colleges and invite them in here, right from infant, junior school age, through to, the colleges, students and things, to come in to try and inspire them, not just about necessarily a chefing career, but about cooking and fresh food and how it looks. And and when we've had kids coming in here and we have live lobsters and smelly cheese and all these different senses that they need to provoke, and you show them around our herb garden and everything, get them to smell all different herbs and taste different things. It's amazing the feedback you get. But the Golden Apron was a competition we set up with JSR and Yorkshire Wolves Cookery School as well. Tim Reimer had a similar idea, and we joined forces to try and encourage some good young cooks along. And instead of it just being a college competition or a school competition, we opened it up to 14 to 19 year olds. So you got them people who was maybe choosing their options, who wanted to go to college. Then you had the more skill set, and it was quite interesting to see the different sets from the younger kids to the slightly more experienced guys who'd been to college, the chefs who are at college. But what you find is they have to give a written entrance, and then we whittle that down. Then we do a cook-off at the Yorkshire Wolves Cookery School, and then they cook their own dish in the morning. Then they have to cook one of my dishes in the afternoon. Wow. Simple things. A lot of pressure for a 14-year-old to do that. And then we choose the top 3, and we do a banquet-style cook-off at the Piping Glass, and the audience on the evening, the invited guests of about 70-odd people, choose the winner, basically. And then there's some marks that go from how they've worked and everything like that. But what you see is these youngsters who aren't so been guided down one path like some of the college kids. They come up with these weird and wonderful things, and they actually read the recipes. And for me, it's not always about the presentation on the plate. It's about how they've used the ingredients, how they've cooked it, And when they've had my recipe in the afternoon, there's been ones that have forgotten half the ingredients and forgotten to season it. And they're some of the older ones that's happened before, with a chef who worked in quite a good place and forgot to season it and forgot a couple of the garnishes. But it looked great on the plate, looked absolutely fantastic, sharp, everything. Then you got this 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl who cooked this thing, and it was one of the best things I've ever tasted. The presentation wasn't quite there, but everything was spot on. And so when you say to the judges, what would you rather have? The one that looked pretty and didn't taste of anything, and had a couple of things missing, or the food that absolutely tasted great? And for me, it's the food that tastes great every single time, And all right, that can be honed, the presentation and things like that. So that's what I try to do. And people's gone on to win it and not go into our industry, but there's other people who have as well, and there's people who haven't, who've just taken part in it and just like cooking. And there's other girl a couple of years ago that came back to see me and came for dinner with her parents and said that without that competition she wouldn't have gone on to do what she did. I helped to get into Doncaster College, and she went on to do cooking. She's now in London doing cooking and things. So that's great reward. There's another lad who won it a few years ago, and he's now working for Gordon Ramsay in London.
Wow.
I'm not saying we're the sole people that made that happen, but I think you have an influence on the career that hopefully push him on into give him confidence.
Yeah.
Not just about the cooking, but in themselves as well. So it's a great rewarding thing to do as well. So, and it's about getting involved, not sitting on the fence and moaning about stuff. Get involved. And we do different things with colleges still and schools.
That's brilliant. I think it's great. It's like for kids to see somewhere like this that is, like you say, it's just honest food and things like that.
Yeah.
Like for them to see that, it's great compared to McDonald's or whatever.
Yeah. Well, to see the ingredients, it is about we've got 2 kids. They know what a dead animal looks like. They know what the pheasants look like in the feather. They know what the cheese is like. And it might be quite shocking for some people, but that is how your food ends up on your plate as well. But it's also knowing what grows in the garden at different times of year and everything like that, which a lot of people don't realise that, how that food actually gets there as well.
And also just some basic skills of being able to cook fresh food is incredible. So also you do a couple of TV appearances, you've had a book as well.
Yeah.
How do you find that kind of side of things? Do you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, enjoy it, yeah. Doing a book is hard. It's harder than what you think. It's to do that book, it took 2 years to do. And you have this thoughts, I think, of these grandeur ideas as a chef. We'll do this, we'll do that, and then when it comes down to it, it's a lot of writing. I think I wrote more for that book than I did in my whole entire school career, to be fair. But it's not what's in it, it's what's also left out of it as well. because it needs to make a book. For what you think's good isn't necessarily what the reader is looking for. So, but very proud of that book. It's a very special book. It's very personal. We're just on with doing another book actually at the minute, so that'll be out in the next year or two. So we've got the premise of that. It's been delayed a couple of times. But yeah, that's good. And doing the TV thing I enjoy that bit. It's good fun. And again, it's getting the brand out there and things like that. So keep promoting ourselves and doing it into a wider audience as well.
Nice. And then I also noticed on your website you've got a beer with Andrew from the Star.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting. It said about that it's in Dubai, Hong Kong, and Japan. How did that come about?
That came about because there was Malton Food Festival a fair few years ago now, probably 6, 7 years ago. They was doing a food and drink festival, and they wanted to do something to promote both things together. So they asked me and Andrew if we'd develop a beer, which is no great hardship really, to spend a day in a brewery. So Great Yorkshire Brewery up at Cropton. We developed it there, and we tried all these different flavours, and we wanted it to be a foodie kind of beer, so it's a light beer, and we ended up putting some fresh thyme and some honey in one of their beers, and it kind of worked. And the brewers had never used fresh thyme in a beer before, and fresh honey, because they normally get the honey flavours from different hops and things like that. But that's what worked, So started off like that. I just did it for the food festival. Me and Andrew took it in barrels, and then after a while they ended up putting it in bottles, and then it got exported everywhere. And it's travelled around the world with us really. And then we still have it on the bar as a hand-pulled ale, which people enjoy and things.
I was going to say, because normally you hear stories about that, like chefs creating something that tends to stay quite local or maybe even national, but the fact that it had gone abroad
it
caught my eye
was
a
quite
little
funny
bit.
really, yeah. I don't know what the Hong Kong market made of it and things, but it's good fun really to do that.
Brilliant. So we're just going to finish with 4 questions.
Okay.
I'm going to be asking everyone in this series of the podcast. So who or what has been your biggest inspiration throughout your career?
I can't put it down to one individual thing. It's some great chefs out there. I can't say there's one person, but there's some great chefs who've influenced me over the year, and that changes over the years as well, because there's still, if you look at your likes of Raymond Blanc at Le Manoir, a very famous French chef but he has Le Manoir, this great 5-star hotel and things like that, but he started off with a little restaurant in the middle of Oxford with red and white check tablecloths, and he's told me this story, and he says it doesn't matter where you are or what you start, you can still do the same thing, and that's inspirational, and then gone on to own the bigger places, and then northern chefs like Terry Laidbawn up in Newcastle, you likes of Nigel Howarth and Paul Heathcote in the northwest. These are very much rooted in their and a belief in the local product, and taking those dishes that was traditional from that area and elevating them to something special. Nigel Howarth's very famous for his Lancashire hot pot, and that's, and all these different pots. But people like that, inspire me, and then other people over the years, your Marco Pierre Whites and people like this, and then still inspirational people today, good friends with some of them, but there's still inspiration to how you go on as well, and that can be starred chefs, it can be non-starred chefs, but then the world opens up now with social media and your Netflix program, Chef's Table, things like that, so you can look at all what's going on in the world, and it becomes smaller. You can look at your phone and see what's going on all around the world with food, and that can be a big inspiration as well. As we're sat in our chef's library here, there's hundreds, probably 1,000 cookbooks around us or whatever, but they're still a great inspiration for me as well. So
I was going to say as well, you said about you used to go and work in other kitchens and try and take inspiration that way. I suppose like some of the chefs that are coming through your kitchen now are probably just going online and looking at Instagram feeds of their friends and what have you, and seeing that inspiration instantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, literally come in one morning and say, "Can we try this?"
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we learn. With cooking, you Marco Pierre White once said, we're all commies, we're all still learning, and that is so true. And it's, as you get older, it's harder and harder to keep up because there's all these different techniques, and equipment. We try to keep up on everything, but sometimes you do try these new techniques and it's not right for what we need to do, and sometimes you revert back to how it, there's more traditional methods of cooking and things, whether it be just put it in a pan with some nice butter, season it, cook it, rest it with a piece of meat or fish, and it tastes beautiful,
So what is the biggest learning from your career then?
The biggest learning curve has been owning your own business, managing people, managing a business, and then over the years, learning to be, I think the biggest thing I've learned is to be confident with your cooking as well. I think the cooking side of it, I've learned, you're not trying to cook for Michelin, you're not trying to be happy in what you're doing. I think a happy chefs produce happy food that the customer enjoys, and almost, I think the trend is more and more so now, less is more kind of thing, and it's about the quality of products and it's about getting the flavour in them products. My style of cooking is very much that it's the quality of ingredients coming through the back door, so we don't have to mess about with it as chefs and mask it up. That if it is a piece of wild halibut, that's what the best piece of meat or fish that's on your plate. If it's a piece of lamb, it's the best piece of lamb you can get, and that's the main bit on there. If it's a vegetable, it's the top quality in season ingredient, whether it's asparagus in springtime, whether it's tomatoes in summer, everything like that. That's the greatest thing that you need to learn, is to know what a produce is available, and learning to use it properly and being confident in using it.
Brilliant. And then this is a bit of an odd one, but what's one tip for success and building your personal brand?
I know a lot of people will probably say this, but it is about determination, about hard work, and never giving up. There is highs and lows in any business as well, but you've got to keep at it, and you've got to, again, keep developing and be open and listen to people. That's one of the biggest things. Me and Kate has always listened to people over the years in business, and whether that's friends who own a different style of business and you can pick up tips from them just from a conversation, not necessarily asking them questions, or whether it's from customers giving you feedback. You've got to listen to your customers, because that makes, it's different. We can't please everybody all the time, but if there's a recurring problem, you've got to listen to your customers so you can change certain things. You've got to listen to your staff, and you've got to listen and learn from everything that goes on around you, really. And that, whether that be, social media now, you've got to keep up with that, but you've got to learn about everything and listen to everything.
Brilliant. And then finally, a nice happy note to end up. What's the best moment in your career to date?
In the actual career, well, at the Pipe and Glass, I would say, probably getting a Michelin star is up there with it as well. One of the best things. But on a personal kind of, when we got an award, what's called a Katie Award, which is classed as like the Oscars of the catering industry, hospitality industry, by Caterer magazine. It's a big event in London, big dinner for 1,500 people at the Grosvenor House every year. We've gone to the awards for quite a number of years as people who are, fairly up there in the industry. And a number of years ago now, me and Kate won the Best Bar and Pub and Bar Operator Award, which that's judging panels by your peers and things like that. And that was real special moment, because it's personal, it's in the hospitality industry, and I'll never forget that, really. And a beautiful Katie's statue, and she sits proudly downstairs on the side, to this day. And me and Kate are now judges for different categories in that, and I'm really proud about that. That's probably one of the best things as well.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. If people want to see what the Pipe and Glass are doing, how can they find out more about?
So visit our website, pipeandglass.co.uk. There's always up-to-date things on there. We have a newsletter that goes out on there. You can sign up for that. There's all sorts of different things. We're just building some new rooms as well at the minute, so keep an eye out for the old Lemon Yard rooms. So.
Brilliant, thank you.
No worries.
That was episode 7 of the My Journey podcast. Thank you for listening all the way through, and a big thank you to James for taking part and the team at the Piper and Glass for helping me organise it. As I said in my intro, I love to hear your feedback, so drop me a tweet or a message at the MJ Social. And if you really enjoyed it, why not leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts? I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. To be the first to hear the next episode, make sure you are subscribed or following the podcast on whichever platform you listen on. Until next time, thank you for listening.